Hello, today we're going to talk about our friend Ghislaine Maxwell. This is a kind of like the beginning of the story of her life, her background story, the background story of Ghislaine Maxwell. So Ghislaine Maxwell is an interesting person. We have to know that. Like, this is very interesting that I never knew that she was born in France. I never knew that. So she's French. And I speak French too. Comment ça va? Ça va bien. I speak French too. So she was born in French. I'm originally from Haiti, but I speak French a little bit. I pretty fluently, but I've never been to France. But so she was born in France, 1961, and she's the 11th child of Robert and Elizabeth Maxwell. So she's the youngest daughter, and she grew up in Oxford. Ghislaine Maxwell. It's interesting to see those stories because it's like, I'm wondering what can make somebody become like such a evil person. I don't understand. It's so mysterious. But it looked like she was being spoiled because they said that she was the favorite of the family. Robert Maxwell called his luxury yacht after her name. The yacht that Robert Maxwell owned was called Lady Ghislaine. Can you imagine that? So he had like 11, so he had about 10, 11 kids, but he decided to put the name of Ghislaine Maxwell on his yacht. So he really loved her. He really was crazy about her. And the father forbade men. She didn't allow men to see her daughter. So he thought that they were kind of gold diggers. That's interesting to know. So you're going to look at the video, and he also tried to get Ghislaine to marry JFK. So it's interesting. Look at the video. Let me know what you think, and we're gonna talk. And basically, I'm gonna summarize it after. Maybe, I don't know.
She's the socialite who was a big name in American and British high society for decades, hosting glamorous dinner parties and hanging out with powerful people. But did Ghislaine Maxwell use her connections for something unimaginable? She stands accused of grooming underage girls for her ex-boyfriend and confidant, Jeffrey Epstein. Yet while her name is now infamous,
Ghislaine Maxwell,
she's still somewhat of a riddle wrapped in a mystery who managed to evade the FBI for nearly a year. So who exactly is Ghislaine Maxwell? Ghislaine Noël Marion Maxwell was born in France on Christmas Day in 1961, the 9th and youngest child of Elizabeth and Robert Maxwell, a newspaper baron and member of parliament. But more about him later. She grew up in Headington Hill Hall in Oxford, a lavish mansion with more than 50 rooms. She went first to Oxford High School. From there, she went to Marlborough College, one of the most expensive public schools in the country. She then studied at Balliol College, Oxford. It's widely reported that Ghislaine was her father's favourite child, hence he named his luxury yacht after her. In an interview with Tatler in 2000, she called her father inspiring. Robert Maxwell's biographer wrote that from the time Ghislaine was at Oxford, her father forbade her boyfriends from coming to the house or being seen with her. He suspected that any man seeking his daughter was a gold digger. Reports suggest Robert wanted his youngest daughter to marry John F. Kennedy Jr., thus creating a powerful dynasty. Indeed, to understand Ghislaine, we need to know more about her father, how he came into wealth, and how he made the Maxwell name a fixture of British high society.
His life has been the stuff of novels. So remarkable was his rise from poverty to millionaire, then his fall, and his ability to bounce back again.
Jan Ludwig Hock was born into a Jewish Orthodox family in then Czechoslovakia in 1923. He managed to flee during the war. However, his parents and much of his immediate family died in the Holocaust. His wife, Elizabeth, said that when she studied her husband's genealogy, I put a little Star of David in front of all the people who had been murdered in the camps. And when I unfolded it, it was like a shower of yellow stars right through 3 generations. Elizabeth would later devote her life to honouring those who died in the Holocaust, and in 1987 she founded the Holocaust and Genocide Studies Journal. Robert himself would help Soviet Jews move to Israel and invested heavily in the country. During the war, Maxwell fought for both the Czechoslovak resistance and then the British Army, and became a naturalised British citizen shortly after the end of the war, changing his name to Robert Maxwell. He ran a powerful publishing company, Pergamon Press,
and no one has any doubt that Pergamon is a sound business,
and served as the Labour Member of Parliament for Buckingham in the 1960s. Then in 1984, he bought the Mirror Group newspapers, becoming the media baron rival to Rupert Murdoch.
This quest of yours for a national newspaper, is it because
you really are after power?
Well, no, it is not because I'm after power. I certainly would hope to make a small contribution with the help of these newspapers, if I become proprietor, to halting the retreat of Great Britain, which has gone on for so long that the natives have forgotten that they're going backwards.
How tough a proprietor do you think you are?
How tough I am, or whether I'm friendly or rows, you must ask those people that work with me. I tend not to have rows.
Maxwell also owned Oxford United and Derby County, but he was prevented by the authorities from adding Watford to the list.
If my family hadn't got involved in Oxford, Oxford would have been finished. Same applies to Derby.
For his daughter, Maxwell made her director of his football club, Oxford United. But she also went her own way, founding something called the Kit Kat Club, a group that brought together powerful women from the arts. The author, Anna Pasternak, attended the meetings and told the Telegraph, "Ghislaine was very mindful of who you were, your status, your importance. I think it was more a way of advancing herself, making contacts that could be useful to her." But tragedy struck in 1991. Robert Maxwell disappeared from his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, off the Canary Islands.
At 11 o'clock, a business call from New York was put through to Mr. Maxwell's stateroom. That went unanswered, alerting the captain, who raised the alarm. An air and sea search was launched. Several hours later, Mr. Maxwell's body was found by the pilot of a Spanish sea rescue helicopter, winched aboard and taken to Las Palmas.
His funeral took place in Jerusalem and was attended by both the Israeli president and prime minister. He was then buried on the Mount of Olives. But it emerged that Maxwell had left debts of £400 million, and that led to conspiracy theories about his death. There were reports he was the agent for the Israeli intelligence agency, Mossad, and had threatened to divulge secrets. Thus,
so you can see that the story of Ghislaine is pretty interesting, right? So she made the daughter director of the football club. She didn't want guys to date her daughter. He was very jealous, and he wanted her to date Robert Kennedy Jr. Now, the thing that got to me, and I hope that's the thing that got to you, he died mysteriously also. Some people think it's because he was part of the Mossad. Some people think it's because he was part of the KGB. Nobody knows. Now we see that Jeffrey Epstein died mysteriously. Now Ghislaine is kind of a mysterious person, multiple passports, multiple nationality. This story is so fascinating, and we don't know who's going to come out. The worms coming out of the can, we don't know what is going to come out. It's so fascinating. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you, guys.